Well, I don't think we've all used the word eugenics. I think, we know, most of us, what the technical definition of eugenics is. That's not what the argument is actually about, really.
Well,
It's
but
about
that's all that I'm saying is,
Yeah,
is
you're
that
right.
when we're arguing with people, then they're saying, oh no, we're not eugenic,
I don't-
because that's not what we're doing.
Right.
When in reality, it doesn't make us like what they're doing any better, yet they don't define it that
Right.
way.
There's no point offending people for trying to persuade them.
Well, I've never held that view. But I think the deeper issue, if you want, okay, is the idea that this is what this is about, actually. Is it about, for example, individual autonomy or parental autonomy, etc., or is it about something, a different ethic, actually, or other ethics? And I think, in fact, there is systemic devaluation of people with disabilities. It's evident pretty much universally. And I think it's represented in some of the actions that are taken to actually shorten, end lives, and prevent people from even being born. And I think that is much different than simply individual autonomy may be wrapped up in there, but I think there's a deeper systemic issue, both conscious and unconscious, within human beings and their societies, and that we're struggling. Those of us that hold one view are in fact struggling against the dominant view that doesn't value people with disabilities as being equal and necessary to the human race, actually, for the benefit of the broader community.
And I agree. I think there are 2 points. There's a normative dimension and empirical dimension here. First of all, people in general tend to think that people with impairments have miserable lives, that impairment wrecks up your life. And that's based on stereotypes, based on the fact that most people haven't met disabled people in their lives, that people with disabilities have been segregated, excluded from communities, etc., etc. And so another point is that there's a normative point, that what makes people think that impairment is so horrible? What do they actually value in life? And I think there's these 2 things that need to be. I think most people don't even really think about these kind of things. They just assume that impairment is awful and it would imply a bad life. And I'm pretty sure that confident most people don't actually think any further.
It might be useful, seeing as you use the term normative, to take a moment to tell us about the history of normativity.
Sorry.
Well, just to speak a little bit about what is the history of this notion of normative. Because it has a specific history too.
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, we'll go to Rob then, you can speak of it.
History of normativity. In the Western conception of Western philosophy has certain conceptions of what is good human life, and and we tend to think that it includes that you have 5 senses and you can move around, and especially that you can think clearly, reason, and understand what Plato wrote. And there's a long history, not just in Greek, Roman philosophy, but also in Christianity, that thinks that it's the mental capacity that makes us human, that makes us the picture of God, or whatever it's the thing that's in the Bible. So, and they're very deep-rooted ideals and norms about human beings.
So what do you call it, though, when you do have a situation, statistic, I did the numbers myself. I looked at Ontario birthing rates, U.S. birthing rates, survival rates of these kids with trisomy 13 and 18 in the U.S. versus Ontario. They didn't line up. Something's happening in Ontario that isn't happening in the U.S. statistically. So there is a disposal of children who have low IQs. And that's the reality. They are disposing of children by killing them, or allowing them to die, or withholding.
Is this public?
Well,
Is this public knowledge? Do people know this?
Yes and no, and that's part of the challenge that I'm trying to raise, in the sense that we continue to allow it to be seen as one family's experience. And when it gets brought up, doctors and ethicists and people say, oh my goodness, that never happens, that's so rare. But when you talk with families, it happens all the time.
And you know why this is growing as an issue now? This is what I think. Medical science has progressed to the point where we can save their lives. Trisomy 13, 18, they wouldn't live. Like my daughter wouldn't be alive. Even 40 years ago, tetralogy of Fallot repair of the heart was not a routine operation. Now anybody gets it. Any child who has a tetralogy of Fallot, they're not going to die because there's a it's a sophisticated but routine. So as medical technology develops and advances happen, this is going to be an exploding issue. We're just seeing the beginning in our society of what I think is going to mushroom at this rate. If these medical advancements continue to enable the saving of the lives of developmentally type disabled kids who would have otherwise died because of biological reasons, failure of the heart. So I think it's an interesting observation, but you're hitting on something here that's of more extrapolating to the future. I think it's a good thing you're doing this now is what I'm saying, because we better have this figured out before we know more about how to save lives.